All right, friends, welcome back to the Plain Fun RC channel as we continue our update here on the St. Croix models Burt Rutan RC Long Easy. Anyway, let's talk about where we are. A couple things. So first and foremost, we've got our 1/4-inch balsa in place over top of our foam, so that's been sealed in as well. Also, you can see we've got our blocks there. Now we're looking at the top of the wing, by the way. The blocks, the hold down blocks, are sitting flush. And also on the bottom of the wing, you can see right there we've got our blocks as well, where it says BR and BL. Those are our mounting blocks, which will be drilled later. They sit flush with the bottom of the wing. What we're working on right now is we're working on the trailing edge and aileron. So we have our aileron pieces, our trailing edge pieces here. Now, some things to keep in mind when you're doing those pieces right there. You're going to be measuring 6 and 7/8 from here all the way to here, and you want to. It's important to make sure that's exact because that's the point that's also going to be used when we wind up putting our winglets on as well to determine if they're straight. What we're working on right now is we're going to be creating the aileron and the remaining trailing edge stock. Now, if you look carefully here at this particular trailing edge stock, okay, and you'll notice how it is fatter at this end and thinner at this end. So do keep that in mind when you're doing this. And very important, when you go to mount on the remaining taper trailing edge, you've got to make sure that you're lining up the top edge with the top of the wing. So be careful. Don't accidentally put it on with the wing upside down. Very important to keep that in mind. All right. So for those that want some more detailed instructions, you can see where we are. Normally I wouldn't show the instructions and be quite as detailed with the build, but I know this kit is very rare, and for those that are fortunate enough to locate the kit, some of them may not include the instructions or have a set of plans to go with it. So anything I can do to help you along the way is a step in the right direction. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, you can see we're continuing with our update here. We've got our trailing edge tapered stock here glued in place using some foam safe CA. And what we'll do is we'll wind up trimming this off in accordance with the contour that's here at this time. We've got our ailerons cut out here and of course over there as well. So so we're just continuing on. Just so you know, the ailerons, by the way, we're looking at step 19 is what we just finished up here, and then we'll move on to step number 20. All right, folks, more to come. Hi, friends. As we continue our update here with regards to the Burt Rutan St. Croix models Burt Rutan Long Easy, you can see we're just doing some final sanding, filling in some spots here and there where there's some cracks or some uneven joining surfaces. Definitely make sure to take the time to go ahead and do that whenever you're getting ready to glass a surface. You want to make sure the surfaces are smooth and that the joints are even, because it does affect how the fiberglass lays down. You want a nice smooth finish when you're laying down your fiberglass. Now for filling in, we're using the Deluxe Materials model lightweight filler. They have a balsa tint and a white tint. You can use it for balsa, and you can also use it for foam as well. You don't need much, but it's very good, extremely lightweight, and it's much better than any other filler you could possibly get. Say, for example, some of the different stuff you could buy at Lowe's or Home Depot. Find it on Amazon. Anyway, so we're just going to let that stuff dry. We'll do a final sanding, then we'll flip it over and do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll go ahead and we're going to focus on our leading edges and getting those nice and round, and more to come. All right, friends, continuing with our update here. While we're waiting for the filler to dry on the wing, I went ahead and continued, went back to working on the actual winglets. So you can see we've got our leading edge on there, and our sub-trailing edge is also on there as well. And then I want to show you what it looks like before you put it on. Of course, you can see you've got the you've got your leading edge and sub-trailing edge in place. You've got your 1/4 by 7/16 here, and then you have your 1/8 inch sub-trailing edge balsa back here. So anyway, we're working on shaping it once again using that wonderful power plane, and you can see it's coming out real nice. The left one came out really good, and you can see there's the overall shape right there. And with regards to the winglets and the instructions for those that are interested, and once again, we'll move back to the wing in a little bit once we get to the fiberglassing piece. Here's where we are. And of course, as usual, just hit pause if you want to read the instructions. All right, folks, more to come. All right, friends, welcome back to the Plain Fun RC channel as we continue our update here. We're working on the bottom half of the fin here, specifically the bottom winglet block. And what we did is we went ahead and photocopied that and used a little stick-on glue, held that in place. Now, not only do you have this here, but in the instructions, you'll see you have a top pattern and a bottom pattern as well. Now, the only mistake in the instruction manual is that it will say bottom left when that's not correct. That's actually bottom right, so just keep that in mind. And the reason why you know that is because you have to look at the curvature of the pattern. Okay, there you can see it right there, and you have to see it has to match. Okay, that's how you know you have the right one. Now, one thing I want to tell you though is do take the time to take your fin. Do take the time and take your fin and put it on top of the actual pattern itself, like I did here. And because the fin itself, when they hot wire cut the foam, this right was a little bit thicker than the left and a little thicker than the pattern, so you want to make sure you get the pattern right. Also, you'll see here, this section that you see right here that I'm pointing at, that will eventually be cut out. You'll see that it will be glued to the bottom of the rudder here. So it's a good idea to take a moment to make the notch so you know exactly where it's going to go. It'll make it a lot easier when you go to cut this. Don't cut this out now because you got to shape it, but do go ahead and make that notch. That notch will stay there even while you're shaping. Now, this is going to be tricky because, as you can see, the bottom is actually thinner than the top. But what I did is I've drawn some lines to kind of get an idea of the angle. And you can see we're going to have to shape a lot of the bottom off first. So I'm thinking perhaps maybe like a jigsaw. Give that a try and see if that works. If not, then we might wind up using a sander. So anyway, all right, folks, more to come. All right, friends, continuing with our update here, we've got our bottom winglet block shaped. It came out really well. We had to use a belt sander. That worked best. So what I found worked really well when you went through and you actually sanded this is start with the bottom. Since the bottom has to have the most of it off, start sanding with the bottom first, and then gradually then you can go ahead and go to the top. And then what happens, the angles eventually meet, and you just have to just take your time when you sand them. So it came out really well, really well. I'm very happy with it. So that's the right. We're gonna go ahead and get on with the left, and more to come. All right, friends, continuing with the update, we've got our bottom fins shaped. Here's our left one right here. All nicely in shape, came out really good. Real nice. Real nice. All right, so now what we got to do is we got to cut our notch out here, and we've got to cut this section off and be able to glue it to the rudder itself. All right, more to come. All right, friends, continuing with our update here. So I want to show you some. So as I mentioned before, you've got that bottom section here that has to be cut. So what I'd recommend is make a copy of the template and just glue it on the back. I mentioned before I'd already cut the notch, so you can see there where my thumb is. If you line that pattern up with that notch that was previously cut, it'll give you a perfect spot. And just very careful, make sure it's on both sides, and very careful, you can use a little X-Acto saw. You can see we're starting to make the cut there. That's the easiest way. That guarantees it's going to be nice and straight too. So once that's cut out, hang on to that because that's going to be glued onto the rudder itself. All right, more to come. All right, friends, so let me show you what we did here. We, of course, have our little section cut out. This, of course, will get glued to the rudder, and we've also cut our notch out as well. And to give you a perspective, here's the instructions in case you're interested. If you look at number 10, 11, and 12, that's what we've done so far. So anyway, we're going to go ahead. We're going to get these blocks glued to the rudder, and more to come. Or glued to the vertical stabilizer. More to come. All right, friends, continue our update here. You can see we have our bottom pieces glued in. I just had to slide it on temporarily on the wing, and it just looks too cool. Came out really nice. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to add some additional pieces onto there and get our rudder all set up, and we'll talk a little bit about where we're going to place the servo. All right, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update here, we've got our bottom piece glued to our rudder. We've got our top piece here that's been cut off from this from the stock, glued on here, and then we just have to go ahead and put our 1/4 by 1/4 up top, and we'll get that shape. So we're coming to the end of the process here. All right, more to come. All right, friends, continuing with our update here, you can see we've got our top piece on there. One little quick tip about the top piece for the fin. Use something a little bit wider than the 1/4 inch that it's recommending. Just a friendly FYI on that one. Then of course you can shape it down to size. Right now, so we've just got our filler. It's drying. We're gonna let that fully dry for right now. And then we'll go ahead and we'll sand that smooth and we'll get these glassed. What we're gonna do also, what we're doing also is we've got these, our rudders, a little bit of glass, or a little bit of the, you know, the what is this stuff? Here it is, Model Light, lightweight balsa filler. We're using that as well here to go ahead and just kind of fill in some holes or in some gaps. So anyway, that's drying. We're gonna let that dry. Let's go ahead and move back over to our wing. We're really finishing up with our wing here, which is really nice. So a couple things. We're gonna go ahead and get started with our glassing. Now, what you're gonna do is you're gonna start off with a light 3/4 ounce glass, and you're gonna go from end to here. Okay, just so you know, it's 1 inch over into the midsection. Remember, we've got our outer panel, midsection, and root. So we want to keep that in mind, okay? And then we'll be overlapping the glass, at the various levels of glass as we go along. Now, when I originally built it back in '84, I just used Monaco. I didn't use any glass at all. But I never wound up flying the thing. I wound up selling it. But nonetheless, so this will be the first time we've ever gone through and glassed an entire wing at all, ever. So anyway, we got a lot of practice with it when we did the quickie. You can see right up there, because we had to glass that wing as well, the Rutan quickie. So we'll go ahead, and this should not be too much of a problem. We'll just use the same technique. You're going to do a light spray, a 3M77, put your glass over top, and that'll allow you to position it, and then go ahead and we're going to lay down some 30-minute epoxy mixed with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and then we'll let that dry. All right, more to come.